Ezra Hashem. Today's daf is Masechta Kiddushin Daf Samach Gimel. We will begin from 4 lines from the bottom of Daf Samach Beis and Beis. The Gemara is discussing the sugya of called Odom Makne Dover Shaloi Bal Olam. Can a person buy something that's not yet existing in this world? What's the halacha? For example, if someone goes to a woman and says, the father of this woman, and says, your wife is pregnant. Your wife is pregnant. When she will give birth, I want to be mukudeshes to that. If it's a girl, I want to be mukudeshes to that baby. And he goes over to the father of this pregnant woman and says, here's the Kiddushin money. Well, the girl was not yet born. Can somebody begin a purchase on something that was not yet existent? Or, for example, like in our Mishnah, we're discussing a man goes over to a goy and says, listen, here's Kedusha money. When you become a Giyoris, then the Kedushin should start. But I'm giving you the Kedusha money now. So basically, he's purchasing something that's not yet existed in this world. So the opinion was, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov said it could work. Amar Abaya said, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov is of the opinion. His opinion is in Truma. You could give Truma on something that was not yet cut off from the ground, because you could cut it off in the ground. So Rabbi Yezer ben Yaakov holds Odom Makne Dover Shloi Bala Olam. Rabbi Meir, Kula Svirle, they all hold of this opinion of what? Odom Makne Dover Shaloi Bal Olam. A person can purchase something that is not yet existing in this world. So again, a person could walk over to this lady and says, Goy, listen, here's the Kedushin money. When you become a Jew, then you will be engaged. So he gives her Kedushin money. So he purchased something that's not yet existent. So they all, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Rebbe, and Rabbi Meir, all hold of this opinion. Odom Makne Dover Shaloi Bal Olam. Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov, Hodamram. The previous Gemara stated the source of Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov's opinion is that a person could purchase something that did not yet come into the world. Rebbe, where do we see Rebbe holds of this opinion? The Tanya, we learned to the Braisa. We go to the top of the page. The Torah says, Loisaske Evet Eladoinov. You're not allowed to deliver a slave that escaped, or that a slave that's supposed to work, you're not allowed to deliver him back to his master. Now, why should you not deliver a slave back to his master if he's trying to run away? He belongs to the master. So what is the Chumash telling us? So how do you interpret this pasuk? Rebbe says, evet, you bought a slave, amanas l'shachrorai. You bought a slave, and the guy says, when I'm going to buy this slave, and he's with the condition that as soon as he purchases it, then he's going to free the slave. So the Torah tells us, don't force the slave to go to the master, because he already committed that he's going to free the slave. That was the pasuk talking about. The pasuk is talking about a man purchased a slave on the condition he's going to free the slave. Therefore, don't make the eved work for its master, because it's a free slave. It's the slave is supposed to be freed. Hey, Kadami, what is the case? Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak said, a man goes over to somebody else's slave, and he says, going to Kosovle, he gave her this slave a piece of paper. The slave does not yet belong to him. When I purchase you, you're bought your freedom from now. So basically, he's freeing the slave that he does not yet own, and yet, according to Rebbe, that's the interpretation of the pasuk. So we see a person could actually makna and purchase something and do something for something that did not yet exist in the world. And here he's doing two things. Number one, he's saying that when I purchase you, I'm giving you the freedom. I'm selling you your rights back. So if that's the interpretation of the pasuk, then Rebbe holds Odom Makne Dover Shloi Bala Olam. That's Rebbe's opinion. Rebbe Meir, where do you see Rebbe Meir holds the Odom Makne Dover Shloi Bala Olam? Tanya, we learned to the Braisa. A man says to a woman, after I become a goy, says to a woman, you're going to be engaged to me after I become a ger. Or after you become a Jewish person says to a goyish lady, after you become a ger. I want to be mukadeshes to you. But he gives the kedusha money now. He's an Evet Knani, and he says, after I become free, we're going to get engaged. Or la'achar shetishchareri, after you become free, we're going to get engaged. Or he says, la'achar sheyomes balech, a man goes over to a married woman and says, listen, after your husband dies, we should get engaged. And he gives her kedusha money now. A man who's married to a woman, and he goes over to his wife's sister, and he says, after my wife, your sister dies, we're going to get married, and here's kedusha money now. After you get chalitza from your Yavam. All these cases are something that right now you can't do it, but in the future you could do it. So because you right now can't do it, the Tanakama holds Einu Mikudeshes, the Kedushin is not valid. Rav Meir says Mikudeshes, it would be valid. Once he becomes a ger, once the husband dies, let's say, or once the sister dies, so all these things, once the event happens, then the Kedushin will take effect. Even though when you actually try to start the kinyan, it was something shadloi ba la'olam. So we see clearly that Rameir holds odamakna, a person could sell and purchase something that did not exist in the world. Rabbi Yochanan San La'oma, Rabbi Yochanan San also says, like the Tanakama, Ein Mekudeshes, the Kedushin does not work. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, Mukudeshes, he agrees with Rabbi Meir that in most cases you'll say it's Mukudeshes, except the case when he goes over to a married woman and says, I'm giving you Kedusha money, when your husband dies, we're going to get married. That's not going to work. And or he says to his wife's sister, after my wife, your sister dies, we're going to get married, and here's the Kedusha money. Now, there, the Rabbanan took away the Kedushin. In it, really, the Kedushin would work, but the Rabbanan said it should not work. Why did the Rabbanan say it wouldn't work? If Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds, so then why shouldn't it work? Mishum Eva, Chachamim took away the Kedushin over there because it'll lead to animosity. In other words, the husband sees that somebody else, a stranger, gave Kedushin money to his wife. He's going to look that his wife is already set up after he dies. He's going to always be angry at her because she's expecting him to die so she could go ahead and marry somebody else, and she already took Kedushin money of that. So there, it's not going to work. The Chachamim said because of animosity, we're not going to say that Kedushin is valid. Or a man goes over to his wife's sister and says, oh, when my wife dies, we're going to come married, and here's Kedushin money now. That's also not going to work because his wife is going to be so angry at him that he's already setting himself up to marry his sister. But in theory, Rabbi Yehuda ben Nasi holds, so the Gemara asks, Nami Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, why didn't Abaye say that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is on the list of the people of the Tanoim that hold Odom Makne Davar Shaloi Ba'al? And says the Gemara, Hainu Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He said Rebbe holds Odom Makne Davar Shaloi Ba'al. That's the same person who is called Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. So Hainu Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. They're both one of the same. So that he is included in the list. So Rabbi, who was on this list of Odom Makne Davar Shaloi Ba'al? It's Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov, Rebbe, and Rabbi Meir. 3 people. So the Gemara asks right now, the Nachshav Nami Rabbi Akiva, let us include Rabbi Akiva as part of the list as Odom Makne Davar Shaloi Ba'al. Tanya, we learned to Brisa, Koinim Shani Oisla Picha, Ain't Tzarech Lahafe. If a woman, a wife, a lady says to her husband, listen, all my salary money should be usher to your mouth. Ain't Tzarech Lahafe. The husband doesn't have to nullify such a vow because whatever his wife earns, the paycheck belongs to the husband. Rabbi Akiva says, Yafer, he should nullify the vow. Why? Maybe she's going to make a bonus money. The bonus money she gets to keep, and it's going to be commingled with her money, and therefore he's not going to be able to enjoy the bonus money because it's mixed up with her money. So therefore he might be over his neder. So the Torah, so Rabbi Akiva says that what? That he should nullify such a vow. But what you do see is that this lady has not yet worked, but she's saying to her husband, when I make my paycheck and I do a bonus, you should be usher to, it should be usher to you. So we see that a person could, according to Rabbi Akiva, the neder would be an effective neder. So Rabbi Akiva must hold that also the same idea, even though it's not existing in this world, a person could effectuate something. So a person could make a neder on something that's davar shalai bala olam, and who would probably also a person could purchase something that's davar shalai bala olam and do something with something that's davar shalai bala olam. So why don't we put Rabbi Akiva on this list? Answers the Gemara, Itma Allah, Amar Avhuna B'Rei Dav Yeshua, Ba'oimeres Yikotri Yodai Loisem. She, V'yadayim Isnuhu Ba'olam. We've seen this teretz before. That it's not that she's saying my paycheck should become usher to you, my bonus paycheck should become usher to you. She's saying, and that's Davar Shalei Ba'olam. She's saying whatever these hands are going to work in a bonus, they should become usher to you. That's what she tells her husband. Well, in that case, well, the hands aren't existing in the world. Her hands are here right now. So she can make the neder take effect on her hands, and because of that, the neder would be effective. So the Mishnah, new Mishnah, a man says to a woman, unless on the condition that I am going to speak to the, let's say, the governor on your behalf, maybe trying to lower your taxes or whatever it is. He's going to speak on the governor on her behalf. He's going to lobby for her. Or I'm going to work for you as a handyman around your house. So that's the condition. If he followed through on the condition and spoke to the governor on her behalf, or worked around her house as a handyman, she becomes mukudeshes. But if he did not do that, she's not. The kedushin is invalid. So that's what the Mishnah says. And what you think about it, it was just a plain condition, and there's no novelty of this Mishnah. You make a condition, and you have to keep the condition. Amar Shlakish explained, you actually gave her a shava pruta. In other words, really, one would pay somebody to lobby on their behalf. One would pay someone to be a handyman in their house. That's not the money of the Kedushin. The Kedushin money is a separate pruta that he's giving her. The condition is something else. That was a side condition, but the actual money of the Kedushin is he gave her a shava pruta. And the reason why Rish Lakish learns that is because he learned our Mishnah goes according to the opinion that when you work for somebody, let's say you're a handyman working for somebody. So when is when is your payment due? When you finish the job, your payment is due, but how is the money earned? So there is an opinion that says the money is earned when the job is finished. Once the job is finished, that makes sense. That's when the entire money is being earned, and then you pay it. According to another opinion, that's called Einel Chsiris Elab Soif. But according to another opinion is that it's like a taxi cab. Every second that you're working, you're actually building towards the final payment. So every second, you're actually supposed to get paid, but you're not theoretically getting, in practice, it doesn't make sense to get paid every second, but you're earning part of that wage, part of that fee, whatever it is, every second that you're working on the project. And therefore, he can't say to her, according to the opinion of the way you learn Pshat in our Mishnah, is that the money that you owe me because you're paying me. The second that he's supposed to pay her, that's when he can say, "Oh, you keep the money because you owe me that money because I worked for you." But if every second she only owes him less than a shava pruta, because every second is counting towards the final, as we build up towards he finishes the project. So then he is not being bekadish her with a shava pruta. That's why Rish Lakish says that our Mishnah is discussing when he actually gave her a separate pruta payment for the money, for the kedusha money, and the actual money that she owes for because he worked in her house, or that he is spoken the governor on her behalf. That is a separate condition that he has to meet. So again, our Mishnah is discussing, a man says to a woman, "You're mekudeshes to me on the condition I speak to the governor on your behalf, I lobby on your behalf, or I worked around as a handyman." So the Rish Lakish explained that if he followed through on the condition she's mekudeshes, only if he already gave her the money of Kedushin of a Shava Pruta. Says the Gemara, Uviskar loy, you can't be Mekadesh an Isha if you just commit to the wages that, you can tell her, hey, you don't have to pay me. Why wouldn't that be enough? Why wouldn't that be enough? Why does he have to give her an extra Shava Pruta? Why can't he say, listen, the lady owes him the money at the end of the project, and he can say, you keep the money, and we could be Mekudeshes like that. Well, Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, if a taxi driver says, let's say you owed a taxi guy money, you owed a donkey driver money, or a wagon driver money, or she owed a ship captain money. She took a trip a month ago, and he says, you know what, you don't have to pay me. Let's be engaged. She's not mukudeshes. Why? Because for the past month, this was a loan obligation that she owed the driver, the captain of the ship, the driver of the wagon, and therefore you can't be mekadesh anisha by just forgiving a loan. But if it did not yet happen, he says with on the condition that you not on the condition, but with the mekadesh you with the wage, the fee that you owe me, because I will give you a ride on my donkey. I will give you a ride on my wagon. I will give you a ride on my ship. Oh, in that case, it did not yet happen. So she ready, as soon as it's happened, she has to pay it right away. And he says, no, don't pay me. That should be your Kedushin money. So then, Mukudesh should work. So same thing over here. So why wouldn't it work? Why did Rish Lakish say, our Mishnah says, you actually gave her a side pruta for that? That's the Gemara's question. Are you going to say that price is also talking about that he gave her a shava pruta? It says the word, he's not giving her a shava pruta. The fee that she's going to owe, or the fee that she's supposed to pay for that ride, that's the money for the Kedushin. That's clearly. Void, Tanya, another brisa. A woman says to a man, sit next to me, and, as a companion, as an escort, and I'll be mekudeshes to you. Schoik lefanai, tell me a joke, and I'll be mekudeshes to you. Rokoid lefanai, be danced before me. Asay kedu dimazeh, make like this form. In other words, entertain me, and I'll be mekudeshes to you. Shaman, let's value the entertainment that he provides for her. In yesh by shava pruta, if it's worth a shava pruta, mekudeshes, vimlav any mekudeshes. And here, so that he doesn't have to give her a side pruta in these cases. The fact that she doesn't have to pay, she got a benefit from him, that's enough of the Kedushin. That's him giving her something right then and there. That is talking about he actually gave her shava pruta. In those cases, we estimate what's the value of his providing her with entertainment if it's worth a shava pruta. So it must be that he's not giving her a shava pruta. The entertainment itself is a shava pruta. So again, why did Rish Lakish say in our Mishnah when he said, "I'm going to work for you as a handyman"? The Rish Lakish says, besides that, he has to have given her a shava pruta. To Yufta Rish Lakish, isn't this a refutation of Rish Lakish? Rish Lakish says, "Hai Tana Bara." Those brises hold Ein El Schius El B'Soif. When you provide a service for somebody, when is the fee earned? Right at the second you finish it, and at the second you finish it, therefore, that benefit that she gets, you're giving it to her. You're giving it to her as kedusha money, so that's fine. But our Tana holds the fee that's earned from somebody who provides a service for somebody is earned from the very beginning you start the service till the end of the service. Every second, what really is every second is that he's basically earning a penny, a half a penny, towards that. And the fee that she's going to have to pay it all, but every second he's earning just a half a penny, and therefore at the end, the last second, he just earned the last half a penny, and therefore he didn't really give her benefit because all the pennies that he earned up until the last second, she actually owed him the money. It's a loan, and therefore he cannot be mekadesh that woman with a loan. So therefore it would be a loan. In that case, he has to give her a side pruta. Says the Gemara, over the Yahavla, over the says the Gemara, over the Yavla. Amarava, so over the Yavla, Amarava, Masnisa Kishaisa, my unit Amnas, Nislim Skar, Al Shnamina, Amanas, Kech the Yavlahu. The question that the Gemara just asked, how do you know? Maybe what pushed Rabbi Rish Lakish to learn that our Mishnah holds Yeshna Schiyus B'Tchilavat Soif? Why didn't our Mishnah? Why do we have to say our Mishnah is talking about that he actually gave her? Maybe our Mishnah would agree with the Brises that it was the reward, it was the fee, the benefit that she got, the fee that she got from his service. That should be the kedusha money. What pushed Rish Lakish to say that no, he gave her a side pruta? So Rav explained because Rish Lakish had a difficulty on Mishnah. Why does the Mishnah say that he's mekadesh her almanas on condition? He should be mekadesh her with the fee, the fee that she's supposed to pay for him. That should be the kedusha money. Why does our Mishnah say that the Mishnah says Harayat mekudeshes li almanas shadabach lachol shultan, on the condition that I'm going to speak to you to shultan? He should say you're mekudeshes to me with the fee that you owe me for acting as your handyman or for acting as your lobbyist. Our Mishnah holds call almanas heichad yavlahu. The reason why our Mishnah is discussing that it's a side condition, and it only will work if he gave you he gave a shava pruta, because the novelty of our Mishnah is not that in order for the kedushin to work, you keep the kedushin. The novelty is that our Tana holds yeshna schirus mitchilavat soif. When you hire somebody, every second he's earning something towards the final fee, and therefore you cannot be mekadesh anisha, because whatever you earned already is already a loan. So be moichel that loan. You can't be mekadesh anisha with the loan, and the final second that you work is already you're not giving her anything because it's only not worth a pruta, and therefore our Mishnah has to be discussing that you gave a pruta aside from the condition. New condition. The Mishnah says, Amanash sheyir ta'aba. Man says, on condition, you're getting engaged to me on the condition that my father wants the kedusha. A guy says, a man says to a woman, on the condition that my father is okay with this marriage, we're engaged. If the father was okay with the marriage, then she's mukudeshes. If not, she's not mukudeshes. Mesav, let's say the father died. That's case number 2. Harez mukudeshes, she's mukudeshes, because then there's no father to ask if he agrees with the kedushin or not. Mesa ben, but if the son dies, so now Belamdin and Mesa ben, the son dies, and now this girl will fall to Yibam because she was engaged. So, and she doesn't want to fall to Yibam. So we tell the father, say you didn't want this marriage, and then retroactively she was not engaged because the condition was Amana sheyir ta'aba, and therefore she will not fall to Yibam. So the Gemara is going to discuss to understand this Mishnah. What did the man mean when he said, on condition that my father would agree with this kedusha, with this marriage? Ilema, do you say that the condition was Ada Omar Arba'in? If my father said yes, that means that the father has to actually agree that the marriage. He has to say, I'm okay, and say yes, I'm agreeable. So let's look at case number 2. Case number 2 says, Meisa'av, if the father dies, Harezel Mukudesha, she is Kedusha. Wait a second. If the father died before he said yes, why is she Mukudeshes? Even though he can't object, but he didn't say, actually, yes, I agree with the Kedushin. Voloi Amain, he did not say yes. Ella, says the Gemara, what the Ratza'av, when a man says, I'm marrying you on condition my father wants, it's not that he needs that his father to say actually yes. Ella, we go to Amid Beis, Amanash Yishtakaba. All I need is my father to be quiet. If he's quiet and didn't object, then the Kedushin is valid. So when the father dies, he was quiet already. So the Kedushin is a valid Kedushin, right? Mesa Av, then she's Mekudeshes because he probably heard about it, didn't say anything, then he died. So what's the problem? But a Mesafe, if that's the case, the third case of the Mishnah makes no sense. Mesa ben, if the son dies, we teach the father, oh, now change your mind and say that you don't want. Amai, why would that work and retroactively undo the Kedushin? V'hashasak, but he was already silent about the whole thing. V'hashasak, and he already made the Kedushin valid by his silence. So how do you learn the third case of the Mishnah? Amalah, the third case of the Mishnah, is discussing not that he said that on condition that my father will be silent. The condition was amanash lo yimcha abba, on condition my father does not object. So now the father has a whole lifetime to object to this marriage, and he could at any time object to the marriage, and retroactively the whole thing will become undone. So if the son died, so the father maintained that option to undo his son's marriage by objecting. So therefore, the third case is different than the first two cases. The first case is that the father, the condition was on the condition my father does not object, and that's why when the son dies, we teach the father to object so that she will not fall to Yibam, because retroactively the condition will fall away. So Reisha, the Gemara says, but again, the way to learn Mishnah is this way, is Reisha b'chad taima, u'mitziasa v'seifa b'chad taima. The Reisha of the Mishnah is actually with one reason, and the middle and the end has a different story. In other words, they're different cases. The first Reisha of the Mishnah means Almanashi Ishtakaba, and the middle and the end of the Mishnahs, the middle, second case, and case number 3 is talking about where he said Almanas Shlo Yimcha Abba. So they're two different cases. Rabbi Ana, again, sometimes you have to find Mishnayos. Yes, you find Mishnayos like that. The first case of the Mishnah is one scenario, and the second case of the Mishnah is a different scenario. Shlakish says, Shema Milod Rabbi Yana, the Chakinan Umakminim Masnisim Betrei Tama V'Li B'Dechat Tana, that if you have to learn Mishnayos that way, you will try to push the Mishnayos to say that the Mishnayos are talking about two different cases, but it's one Tana who wrote the whole Mishnah. But we don't try to say that, the Mishnah has a machlokes in Tanoim in the Mishnah, even though it's not written in the Mishnah, but we have to say that the first part goes with this Tana and the second part goes according to this Tana, because you could easily have said that he said that a guy said Amash Niyirtze Abba, and the Tana of the beginning of the Mishnah will hold that, that means that as long as the father is silent, and since the father is silent, the Kedushin works right away. And the end of the Mishnah holds, no, Amanash Yirtza Abba means that he doesn't object, and it's not a Kedushin until he dies. So you'll have two different Tanoim in this Mishnah. So try to learn it as one Tana and two different cases in the Mishnah. So again, it's a struggle to how to learn this Mishnah. But Rabbi Yosef Bar Ami says, I have a very simple way to learn this Mishnah. Loilam Chatama, it's one case. Umanas, when he said, on condition my father wants this Kedusha, it means he goes over to his woman and says, you're mukadeshes to me, as long as for the first 30 days, my father does not verbally object to that. Now, if you go back to the Mishnah, every part of the Mishnah makes sense. So therefore, the first part of the Mishnah, which says, Rotza Av, that means 30 days passed and he didn't object, she's mukudeshes, right? Let's say the second, but if Loy Rotza, that he objected during the 30 days, she's not mukudeshes. Now, the second case of Mesa Av, the father died, that means he died in the 30 days. Well, he's not going to object anymore. She's mukudeshes. And Mesa Ben b'soich shloishim. The last case is that the son died within the 30 days. So now she falls to Yibam. So we teach the father, she could fall to Yibam. We teach the father to now object, and therefore retroactively the Kedushin is not going to work. So again, the way Rabbi Yossi Bar Ami said, the Mishnah is one case, and you don't have to change it to two different scenarios. But the Mishnah forgot to word it as Lamed Yoim. And Menashe Yetziama means on condition that my father does not object for 30 days, and then you can make sense of the Reisha, middle, and the Seif of the Mishnah. New Mishnah. Man says, I was Mekadesh a woman. A father says, I gave Kedushin to my daughter. I accepted Kedushin from my daughter, but I don't know who I accepted the Kedushin from. And one person said, Ani kidashtiho. I was the one that was Mekadesh your daughter. he is believed, because he's believed. You have two guys. They go over to the dad and says, I was the one that you gave Kiddushin for your daughter. And that's one says, I was the one that gave Kiddushin to your daughter. Both of them give a get. If they both if they agree, one will actually give the get and one will marry her. So again, a father who has amnesia, doesn't know who he gave except the Kiddushin on behalf of his daughter. And somebody says, I was the guy, I'm your new son-in-law, he's believed. That was the first case in the Mishnah. Amarav, it's not that we believe him, he can't marry her. Nemalit and get. We could only allow him, we believe him, to actually give a get. The Einanem and Lichnis, but he's not believed to actually marry the daughter. Why? Neman get, he's believed to give a get because there's nothing to gain. Ein Odom Chaytev Lailai. He has no gain to lie. Because if we tell him you're not going to be able to marry her, the only thing you could do is give a get. So he's not going to give her a get and turn out that he's not the real husband and he was matar and ashes ish. We believe him. That he was the husband and he's giving her a get, and now this daughter can marry anybody who she wants. But we won't trust him to say that he was the son-in-law that gave Kiddushin to the father, because maybe his Yetzer Hara got the best of him, and he's actually lying, and really she was engaged to somebody else. So Rabasi says, we actually trust him we trust the guy to even marry her. Umayde Ravasi agrees. If the lady itself says, I agree that I was Mukadeshes, but I don't know who I got Kedushin from. One says Kidashtiha, that, and someone says to her, oh, you lady, you accept the Kedushin money, you don't know who you accept the Kedushin money from. Ravasi would agree that if one guy comes over to the lady and says, I was the one that was Makadesh you, Shainin and Nicholas, then we don't trust him. We don't trust him to actually remain married to her. Why? Because she will cover up for him, that even though he is not really her husband, she'll say, "Oh yeah, that you're the right. You're my husband." So she's gonna go along with it and cover up for him. But when you go to the father, when you approach the father and says, "I was the one that was Makadesh your daughter," so there the father's not going to cover up for him if he's not the right guy. So therefore, Ravasi says, if one guy shows up and says, "I was the one that was Makadesh your daughter," he would believe even to marry the daughter. So now we learned in the Brishna. Tiyufta the Rav. Rav said that if a man says, a father says, I accept the Kedushin on behalf of my daughter, and the guy shows up and says that I was the guy, so the Rav says we won't believe you, so you could marry this daughter. But here the Mishnah says that if two people show up, one will say I'll give the get, and the other one could actually marry. So we see this is a refutation, Rav, that we believe a guy who shows up and says, I was the one that gave Kedushin for your daughter. And Rav said we wouldn't believe such a person. Rav says, mirtis. Since there is somebody together with him, so it's not just he's telling the father, I was the one that gave Kedushin to your daughter. But actually, he has to now refute another guy who says, I was the one that gave Kedushin to your daughter. So he's really scared to come up with this story if it wasn't true. And the fact that he's still sticking with the story, we would believe him. But again, if he had to only face off against the father and he had no other competition, then Rav says we wouldn't believe him to be able to marry the daughter. But Ravasi says, yes. Tanya Kavasi Ravasi, we have a brisa that agrees to Ravasi. Kidashtias biti ve'eniyadeya. Lemi kidashtiya. A man says, I was Mekadesh, my daughter, and I don't know who I accepted Kedushin from. And somebody said, I was the one that gave Kedushin to your daughter. Right there, it says he could even remain married to this lady. Konsa, if if he actually married her, okay, and then somebody else said I was the one that was Makadish her. Now we're in trouble. He actually got ahead and married this daughter, and now somebody else shows up and says, I was the one that gave Kedushin to the father. We won't believe this, the guy that just shows up, because once she's married to the first guy, the other guy will just ignore. But in the other case, I accept Kedushin, but I don't know. The Isha herself says, I don't know who I accept the Kedushin from. And then a guy shows up, and one guy shows up and says, Ani Kedashti, I was the one that gave Kedushin to you. You don't remember me? We don't trust him to get married. She's going to try to cover up. She doesn't want to remain in a guna. She's going to say, oh yeah, you're right. You're the guy. So we will not trust the guy that just shows up. If she has no recollection who she accepted Kedushin from, so then we will never believe anybody who shows up. The Gemara asks the question, by the case of the father. Again, the father said, I was Mekadesh my daughter, right? I gave Kedushin to my daughter. Now, and the daughter went ahead and did znus. There were no Adim, and the daughter went ahead and did znus, right? So based on the word of the father, will we now give skila to this girl, like any girl that's engaged, that who sins, she gets skila. She's like, say, a Nara Marasa. Mahol Liskal Yode, will she get skila? Rav says, Ain Soiklin. Rav Asi, I'm a Soiklin. Rav says she will not get skila. And Rav Asi says, we will give skila. Rav Ain Soiklin. Rav says, you don't give skila. When did the Torah believe a father to say, as biti nasati li'ishazeh, that the father can say, I was Mekabel Kedushin on my daughter li'isura. Now she cannot permit it to marry somebody else, because if he says, I was Mekabel Kedushin, we believe the father, now she's also to the rest of the world. L'kitula lo'yamnein, we don't believe him as that she's a real Ashes Ish, that if she does nus, she would get misa for it. No, maybe he's telling the not truth. The Torah only believed him to make the Isser, but not to actually kill, to do for skila. Ravasi Amma, we would give. Ravasi is very strict. You give actually skila. L'kula milse hemnei rachmon al. The Torah, when the father says, I was Mekabel Kedushin for my daughter, everything, we believe the father on all counts, that now the daughter, if she was going to do znus, she gets skila. Amar Ravasi says, Ravasi said that I would agree that if a woman, not her father, she says, I was Mekabel Kedushin, and then she does nus, Ein Shaiklin, we will not give skila to this woman. Ravasi said, this teaching that I said can break the roof. In other words, it makes no sense what I said. Hashta, in the case of the father, say, in the case of the father, saying, I was Mekabel Kedushin for my daughter. And if a guy shows up and says, I'm the husband, we say, we trust you. In other words, we don't really take the other father so seriously. And if a guy shows up and says, I was the one that gave Kedushin to the father, we will allow him to get married. So so we say that in case nobody shows up, let's say, and she does nus, we give skila, even though we don't take the fact so seriously. To aser, if someone shows up and says, I'm the husband, perhaps he's not the husband, we trust everybody. So the statement of the father is not really taken so seriously. And yet, if the lady herself, the daughter herself, would do znus, we would give skila. Malcolm shimbal lichnois, in a scenario when the woman herself says, I was Mekabel Kedushin, I don't know who it was, and somebody else shows up and says, I was the person, we won't allow her to marry that person. Ain't kindness, we won't allow the person to marry her. It's because we take her word seriously, and maybe she's supposed to be married to somebody else. We won't trust her. So certainly, if she does nus, ain't a din cycling. So we should give her skila. If she now does nus, we should give skila, because we take her word seriously, and that she's actually a married woman. So how does Ravasi square off his opinions? V'lohi. It's you don't have to. I could square off my opinion. La'av hemnei rachmana. The Torah gave a special belief to the father, and therefore he's always believed to say is biti nasati lishazeh. And yet That's a belief that we believe the father, but we also believe if someone else shows up and says, I'm the guy, we believe him too. That's not a contradiction. But Lidida, when she says, I was Makabel Kedushin, it's not because we believe her. It's a person can make herself also to the entire world like a neder, like Shavi and Nafsha Chaticha du Yisur, Rashi said. You can make yourself usher even if you're not married. You can say, I'm married, I should have a din like I'm married, and I should be usher on the rest of the world. So it's not a nemonis, it's like a neder on the rest of the world. So she's not really, we won't treat her as a Ashes Ish, and therefore loy hemne, we won't believe her in the sense that that if someone else, or if she goes and does nus, we won't give her skila based on her words that she is a married woman. Rav Chizda says, if there are no witnesses that a woman got engaged, whether it's the father who says, I was Makabel Kedushin, or whether she herself says, I was Makabel Kedushin, we won't give skila if the daughter does nus or she does nus, we won't give skila. Rav Chizda goes according to his reasoning. Rav Chizda says we trust people, but not fully. Benizef, a man says, my son is ben Tesha Shan v'Yamechad. He says, my son is 9 years old. And therefore, if he does znus, he could actually aser an Ashes Ish, right? Because a boy's bi'ah, after being 9 years old, and he has nus with an Ashes Ish, he could aser that woman on her husband. Or biti ze bas gimel shana v'Yamechad, naman. If a man says, my daughter is 3 years old, he's neman. In other words, if she does nus with one of the arroyas, if one of the arroyas does nus with that daughter, and that daughter, according to the father, is 3 years old, that person should be punished. But ne'eman, he's only believed the carbon to mechayev the perpetrator a carbon of v'loy lamakas v'loy la'anshin. We don't believe the father that we will give malchus or misa based on his statement, my son is 9 years old, or by saying my daughter is 3 years old. In other words, we believe you quasi, part of the way, but not the full way. Tanya Kavasei, but Yoy Chizda, right? There's a brisa according to Rabbi Chizda that we believe the father, but not fully. When the Torah says, I believe the father, it's not for unshim, for punishments. A man says, Benizeh ben Yigimel Shan v'Yamechad, Bitizeh basid bei Shan v'Yamechad. Man says, my son is already over bar mitzvah. My daughter is 12 years old. Well, we will not give them misa for anything unless they actually really 13 years old and have simonim. They have 2 years that show that they actually are really a gadol or she's a gadayla. So, but the father, if just on the father say so, he says, my son is 13 years old, my daughter is 12 years old. Naman l'nidarim. We believe for when it comes to that these children, their promises are promises. L'charamim, the consecration, l'hagdashus, l'rechem, any vow that they take is valid. And any eruchin that they take is valid. Anything that they're giving to Hegdash is valid, or commitment that they're going to give to the Beis Hamikdash is valid. We don't punish them and say, oh, now you're over bar mitzvah. If you're mechal Shabbos, your father said you're over bar mitzvah, you're going to get misa. That we won't believe them, because we believe the father when it comes to the father has belief to say that his kid turned into an adult, only to per se that his commitments are considered commitments. His neder is considered a neder, but not to mete out a punishment to the boy or the girl based on the father say so that they are over bar mitzvah or over bas mitzvah. Okay, Be'ez Hashem will continue tomorrow in Daf Samach Dalet.